Welcome to Uncopyable Women in Sales. If you're looking for actionable insights and real-world tools to turbocharge your sales starting tomorrow, well, you're in the right place. Your host, Kay Miller, earned the affectionate nickname Muffler Mama when she sold more automotive mufflers than anyone else in the world. In this podcast, Kay will talk to another superstar woman in sales as they reveal uncopyable strategies you can use to rack up more leads, snag dream clients, and take your sales numbers through the roof. Stay tuned and get ready to make more sales and how about this? More money.
Today I have the pleasure of talking with Brynn Tillman. Brynn is a LinkedIn sales trainer and coach. She teaches professionals how to leverage LinkedIn to start trust-based conversations without being salesy. Brynn's authentic approach to social selling has led her to receive a LinkedIn top voice in multiple categories. She's the best-selling author of the LinkedIn Sales Playbook and is most proud of the sales results that she and her team have enabled their clients to achieve. Brynn, welcome to the podcast.
Oh, thanks for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
I have followed you on LinkedIn for quite a while, but then recently I was on Jack Rants with Modern Bakers, a podcast that you team up with Jack Hubbard on, and I was very fascinated. He's a great guy. You guys have great chemistry. You must have a lot of fun.
Oh, we have a blast. We really do.
So, he's such a cool guy. I ended up actually also interviewing his daughter, Erin McCann. And that was a very fun interview. Tons of great information. But today we're going to talk about how our listeners, women in sales and some men in sales, can approach sales, and getting more prospects and customers on LinkedIn, like you said, without being salesy. So why don't we just jump in and you can start telling us where to start?
Yeah, well, the first thing is I just want to review. There are kind of like 5 buckets of social selling. The first one is social listening and research, right? And that one actually overarches into every other area in social selling. We need to understand our clients' company, their industry, their client's industry, trends that are happening, what matters to them. If we don't matter to them. Connecting with someone with a good context is not about selling them our stuff. It's about having a conversation around what matters to them. So we don't know that without our social listening. So that's sort of that overarching first category or bucket. Number 2 is the profile. Your LinkedIn profile is your professional landing page. This should not be your resume if you're in sales. This should be a resource. The goal of your profile here is to earn you the right to get the conversation, which ultimately is the goal of social selling, is to get the conversation. So your profile needs to resonate with your buyer, create curiosity, teach them something new that gets them thinking a little differently about the way that they're doing things today so that they're engaged enough to have a compelling moment, which could be a connection request, a connection accept, a message, engaging on content. But we're moving them, and actually your profile and content is positioned to do this, but you're moving them from lurker to engager, from just hanging out to engaging. If we don't do that, we don't know who they are and we can't start a conversation, and there's no sales without a conversation. So that's number 2. Number 3 is the content piece. And content has 3 legs. There's the curating content, finding content that matters to your prospect. That is absolutely essential that they understand that their industry or their client's industry or the trends that are happening is important to you because that's what's important to them, not sharing your products and your services. That is not context for them yet, right? So that curation is really important. Creation is also important, but creation no longer has to be a full-blown blog post. It's a quote, it's a poll, it's an image. There are so many things that we can do on LinkedIn, a quick little video tip, a slider ebook, right? Like there's so many things that we could do that's not blogging on LinkedIn. And now with the amazing, we talked about this a little bit earlier, the chat GPT allows us to take a little bit of content and create tons of content. So we can definitely talk about that, but that definitely falls in that fabulous content bucket. The third thing under content is engaging, which by the way is as important as anything else. In fact, we recommend that you engage 10 times for every post so that you're out there commenting and engaging on other people's stuff. Because guess what? That's what matters the most to them. There is not a piece of content in the world that's going to matter to them more than you engaging on the content they share. Now, not everyone is sharing content. So that's not across the board. It's not like the easiest way to get on their radar. However, if they are sharing content, on average, a person is getting 7 touches to their content. That means 7 reactions/comments, period. That's all they're getting. So you will stand out. It's just amazing, right? So that's the engaging. Okay. So we talked about social listening, profile, and content. Number 4 is nurturing your connections. We tend to go in and connect with lots of people. The average person now, it's over 1,200 average connections on LinkedIn. It used to be 500. So we've more than doubled since before the pandemic, like 1,200 people. On average, 10% of our connections are people we should be having conversations with that we're ignoring. That's 120. On average, there's 120 people in our network that we would love to be on a conversation with, yet we forgot we even connected with them. So we've got to nurture them, and content helps us to do that as well. And number 5, absolutely why I teach this. I teach LinkedIn and social selling over sales. I was a sales trainer, is warm market. We want to make sure we are leveraging our clients' connections and our networking partner connections to identify who they know that we want to meet and really use, I hate to say that both ways, they should use us too, but leverage one another's network to get introductions into our targeted buyers. That's the big overarching picture. That was a lot. I'm sorry.
I love it. I love it. It's good stuff. It brings up so many questions to me. As we talked about the chat GPT thing, I want to ask you about that more. As far as profile, I'll start with that one. Is there one specific thing that someone listening could do right now to improve their profile?
Yeah. So switch your about section from about your mission, your passion, your yours in business. Take all that, move it down into your experience, and make that about section about your buyer. So start with, here's the challenge most of my buyers are facing today. Here are some valuable insights to get them thinking differently and learning new things where they go, wow, I haven't thought of it that way before. And then say, this is how we help. If you're exploring this, let's chat. And now all of a sudden, our about section is a resource that earns us the right to get the conversation. I cannot tell you in so many different forms, on almost a weekly basis, someone will connect with me and schedule a call with me. And I'll always ask, typically at the beginning, but sometimes I forget. And so I ask at the end, oh, by the way, how did you find me? Or what triggered this conversation today? And inevitably, at least once a week, I'm getting someone that says, well, I was reading your profile and I thought, man, if I could learn that much here, imagine what a phone call with you would be. And so I wanted to schedule that phone call. And because my link to my calendar is in many, many places, it's easy for people to do.
That's really good. My book is Uncopyable Sales Secrets. And we talk about your primary target, your very ideal target market as being your moose. And I know you talk about that a lot. Knowing who your ideal buyer is, knowing as much as you can about them. And then we talk about moose bait. What will attract that moose to you? And so that's exactly what you're doing. You're telling them what you can do for them. And that's resonating with people. And they are reaching out to you, which is, like you said, it all starts with a conversation. So that's brilliant.
So I just want to reframe, rather than telling them what you can do for them, show them, right? So teach them. Most of our about section will end up with, this is how we help, but it starts with almost like a vendor agnostic list of insights. So it's not, we help people do this, but this is what you need to do in order to succeed. And then we say we do that. So that their first experience is learning, which earns us the right to ask for the conversation.
That's a great distinction. So you're giving them value up front. You're not just saying, we will help you, or this is what we can do with you. You're giving them a nugget that they're saying, wow, if, like you said, if I can learn that from her profile, what can I learn if we have a conversation? So I like that you made that distinction.
And we'll say, before telling them how you can help them, actually help them.
Right. There you go. That boils it down. Before telling them how you can help them, actually help them. You know, one quote that we talked about before the interview, I want to mention, because I just think this is brilliant. It applies to this whole, you know, like you said, overarching theme of what we're talking about. Your quote is, detach from what the prospect is worth to us and attach to what we are worth to the prospect.
Yeah. And I think that kind of flows smoothly from what we were just talking about. It's just bring value. When you come in to have a conversation with someone and you're thinking, this is a lead, you're gonna lose every single time. When you come into this is a person I'd love to have a conversation with, maybe bring some value to, and explore if there's an opportunity down the road, all of a sudden, that not just is your mindset shifted, but the way you approach your prospect shifts. The way they feel about you shifts. When you jump into a pitch too soon, they feel like just they're another number, right? Who wants to be pitched? We're pitched all the time on LinkedIn. At this point, I feel like a victim of being pitched. So I don't want to be the victimizer. So my goal on LinkedIn is to bring as much value to as many people that can benefit from what I do, and follow up and have conversations with them to bring more value and lead to an opportunity. So I'm not leading with the opportunity, I'm leading to the opportunity.
That's a very good way to put it. And another thing I like that you said is to engage with people who are posting content. As you said, it's all about us, right? I've had people reach out to me. Of course, we've all just been pitch slapped over and over and over. But someone who says, hey, I just purchased your book and read it, and I love these points in your book. I'm like, you know, bingo, I want to talk to you. And so the more you can make it about the other person, the better. And
so I'll
like
give you an
give me an example. No, go ahead.
So an example could be, let's say, and you have a book, and I love that you have an amazing book, but most people don't have books, right? So what are they doing? They're sharing other people's content. So let's say, Kay, you go out and you share a Brene Brown post, and I love Brene Brown. I don't know if you love Brene Brown.
Oh, we all love Brene Brown.
Okay.
Who doesn't love Brene Brown?
It's like Oprah, right? Everyone loves Oprah. Everyone loves Brene Brown, right? That's kind of like the thing. So I love her. All right. So you share a post. And now I go out and I find the podcast Brene Brown was on. Maybe one that she was on with Oprah. I don't know. Right now I find a post and I come back to you, right? And I say, Kay, I engage on your post. I talk on the comments. My number one takeaway from this Brene Brown is this. And now I connect with you. Kay, I really loved the post you put out from Brene Brown. I'm not sure if you heard her on the podcast 2 weeks ago, but if you're open to connecting, I'd be happy to send you that link. And so now we're starting a conversation that has nothing to do with LinkedIn trading. It's about the topic. So that's where I'm detaching from what you are worth to me as a prospect and attaching to what I could be worth to you. And you like Brene Brown, I'm going to give you more Brene Brown, right? So we connect, and then, and we start in conversation. So another thing we say all the time is treat the person on the other side of the message Same way you would if they were on the other side of the table. I would not introduce myself, shake your hand, send you a business card, and then say, let's do business together. That's not what we would do. We would have small talk. We'd get to know each other. I'd learn what matters to you. And it would lead to an opportunity, potentially, where I might be able to bring value, or maybe you bring value to me because I'm detached from selling you. So I'm open to all things, right?
Today's podcast is sponsored by the acclaimed book, Uncopyable Sales Secrets, How to Create an Unfair Advantage and Outsell Your Competition by Kay Miller. If you want to make more sales, you need to read this book. We'll even get you started with a free download of the first 2 chapters. Go to uncopyablesales.com/chapters to grab this offer right now.
And that takes a little bit more work. It takes a lot more work. And I think that speaks to what we talked about before about knowing your ideal prospect. You can't sell everyone and you can't be of value and service to everyone. So you need to do your homework and say, okay, is this someone that I can help and that possibly can help me? Like you said, I can always forget how to say that word.
Reciprocation.
Yes.
Reciprocity.
Yes, reciprocity. We're talking about if you do something for someone, the other person wants to do something for you. So by really engaging in what is important to them, you have an edge for sure, but it does take more time. So how do you go about deciding who that's worth doing for?
Well, so I have my ways. I use Sales Navigator, which we could talk a little bit about to really hone down to exactly the types of people that I want to have conversations with. So it's not like I'm out there giving all my insights away to the whole world. I'm very purposeful in who I'm approaching and who I'm having conversations with because I know who I can bring the most value to. Right. So, and you can do this by categories. Maybe this week I'm going to do bankers, and then next week I'm going to do insurance brokers, and then in the following week I'll do mortgage people, right? Like you can run, and I hate to use the word campaigns, but in campaigns, I've got really great content for a particular industry, and maybe it's phenomenal content. This is an opportunity to engage all of those people because I'm leading with content that is valuable to them. So a lot of times it depends on that. Another thing that it might happen, how do you determine is I know my ideal prospect and I've got a client that just told me how amazing I was and was just a whole lot of fun. And thank you. Now I'm going to search their connections for all the types of people I might want to have a conversation with. And, I'll say, hey, Mr. Klein, I'm so glad we've been able to help you do X, Y, and Z. I hope you don't mind, but I noticed you're connected to 12 people on LinkedIn I'd love to get in front of. Can I run these names by you? And I might get 2, 3, or 4 introductions from right. And so there are a lot of different ways to approach business development. But you have to really get good at searching for your ideal persona. And what you can't do on LinkedIn, so it's funny, I'll get on a call with a client, first meeting. We're getting on a coaching call. And one of the first questions I want to know is, who do you serve? And sometimes they'll say women between the ages of 45 and 65 and this and that. And I'm like, so here's the thing with LinkedIn. That's not a search. But what we can do potentially is find professionals that have been in business more than 10 years. And that's like a Sales Navigator filter. So we can identify, but we have to use LinkedIn filters. So it's a different persona. So you can build out, this is my ideal client that drives, a $50,000 car and does, all these things. But that's not going to help you with LinkedIn. So what you need to do is kind of drill down all the filters on LinkedIn and go, oh yeah, that matches my persona. And that matches my persona. And we start with the largest list of everyone. And then we drill it down and drill it down and drill it down. So I think that was a long answer to your question.
No, but it makes me even more intrigued. Is there a way, besides working with Brynn Tillman, which we'll put all that information in the show notes. Is there a way to explore what LinkedIn's filters are?
Yeah. So if you go to your search bar at the very top, stick in your cursor and hit enter, you're going to have a whole world of filters. Go all the way to the right-hand side and there's an all filters button, and have at it, man. It's a lot of fun.
Well, that's good because like you said, we might define our ideal target market, our moose, by our standards, our lingo, our parameters. But, interesting that you point out that might not mean anything on LinkedIn. So if you are attracting prospects in LinkedIn, you need to know that.
Right.
Another point, you make, which I'm guilty of this too, and I'm working on it. And that is that a lot of us are lurkers. That does not apply to you. You post a ton of content and you post engaging content. You do LinkedIn lives. I think that's something that the average person in sales or who is involved in sales overlooks, how powerful that is to post your own content. And it can take some guts to do that, especially if you do video, but providing value to your perfect audience is going to attract them, right?
Absolutely. But just posting it isn't enough. You have to get it into their inbox. So at the bottom of every time you share content, there's a little paper airplane, and you can send it up to 10 people blind copied at a time or one at a time. But if I put out a video, I'm going to go to my warmest market and ask for their engagement. But then I also may go to the next level and say, this is a topic that, a lot of moose like you, John, right? I'm struggling with the plural, but I think a moose is a moose.
I think we just say moose for one or moose for a bunch of moose.
That's what I thought. Okay, great. So, moose like you typically have, a strong perspective on this topic. I'd be honored if you'd share yours in comments. So now I can go out and start to ask perspective, and this is only my first degree connections, but this is a way of nurturing them and staying in front of them, is asking them their thoughts. Now they're going to consume your content because how can they give you their perspective if they don't? And so it's this big win, right? And then you're very grateful for their insights and how much that's helping the rest of the community. And they now learn your perspective too. So it starts deeper conversations where there's opportunity.
Well, and everyone likes to be asked their perspective. What do you think about that? Who doesn't want to answer that question? Right. And it makes us feel like we're helping, we're contributing, and we are. When you say you asked for their engagement, do you direct message them or you said,
yeah.
Yes.
So
okay.
At the bottom, if you click on the little send button, it's a paper airplane. It's at the bottom of every piece of content that a person shares, not always on a company page content. If a person shares it, it's there. If you click on that, you're going to get a list of every single one of your connections. You can type in their name and click in a little box, and you can actually send up to 10 blind copies. So if I have a list of my 10 moose, and I could go, in comments, I can't use a name because it's blind copy, but I could say, as a moose in this industry, I would love your perspective. It feels very personal, even though it went to 10 people, they don't know it's blind copied. But now you're engaging or you're getting engagement from these folks in a way that's meaningful to them, because asking them their perspective is a good context. They feel important. You've elevated their voice and they've consumed your content, and they may even look at your profile because you've asked this. So there's no better way to get someone to consume your content than ask them their perspective on your content. And then they're really listening to it because they've got to add their thought.
Right. That's right. They have to actually read what you're saying or listen. Right. I love that. And I talked to you before we started recording. I said, I want specifics, things that people will take notes about that they can actually act on. And those are some excellent suggestions. I think that we do get caught up in the numbers. I noticed, of course, when I look at your profile that you've got 66,000 connections and followers. Wow. And I'm like, wow, that's a lot. I don't have that many. But, when you talk about engaging, reaching out to 10 people, if they're 10 of the right people, then that's what really matters. So even if you don't have a ton of connections, you can do a lot. And I'm sure you agree, right? What is your perspective on that?
And quality over quantity, for sure. I mean, I've been doing this a really long time and I do it for a living. And you max out at 30,000 connections and then everyone else becomes a follower. But if you have 500 of the right people, it's worth way more than 500,000 of the wrong one. So intention is really valuable. Unfortunately or fortunately, whatever, I started early and I was a LinkedIn open networker for a couple of years before I even really knew how to leverage the platform well. So I have a ton of people that are not the right people, and that doesn't help. It really doesn't. Now, a lot of my cohorts would say, or colleagues would say, well, it opens up new markets for you. But if I were to do it over, I would be much more intentional in how I built my network.
Okay. Are you taking notes? You, the listener? Because I sure am. That is a great point. Like I said, I think we get intimidated when we see someone with all these followers and you're saying, no, I would have been more intentional with this process. I also interviewed someone recently who has a ton, over 100,000 followers. And she said also, I don't know how many of those are even real. Do you think that there is a problem with bots and fake followers on LinkedIn?
I think there was, and I think LinkedIn did a really good job cleaning them up. I had 69,000 followers and now I have 66,000 followers. So LinkedIn really, I think, did a deep dive into and scrubbed right before they hit 1 billion members. They scrubbed it. I'm like, they're almost at 1 billion and they just scrubbed it. Now they're down to 950 million. And I think it was very intentional because they wanted it to be a real 1 billion. So there is very little value in following someone. So why there would be fake followers is a little beyond me. Fake connections is a little different potentially. But you can search your followers and I can search anyone's followers. Those are public information, even if I'm not connected to them. So when you go into that search filter that I talked about, the magic, you go and put your cursor in the search bar, hit enter, go to all filters. One of the filters is followers of. So if I want to see all the people following Brynn Brown, I can. And if I want to drill that to only the followers that are people that are following Brynn Brown that are in the industry of moose, I can do that, right? I can really drill it down. And now I can see all the CEOs in New York metropolitan area that follow Brynn Brown that I want to invite to a motivational talk that I'm giving. And they like her. They're going to like me, right? But I can do that. And so I can really drill down based on followers of. So if she wants to know who her followers are, she can search her own. Just followers, not connection.
I love that. So can you do that then with a regular LinkedIn account? Do you need premium or Sales Navigator for that? Nope. Okay. So you can do that. You who are listening can do that right now. I can't wait to get off this call. Brynn, we might have to end early just because I'm so excited.
Do it again in the future.
Yeah, we might have to do another episode because we are close to being out of time. But I do want to talk about ChatGPT, which we briefly talked about. And, this is a new world for so many people. Someone like you who are just immersed in this world. I mean, a super early adopter of LinkedIn and, leading edge with a lot of different technologies. I know you're using that. But the average person who's involved in their sales role or running their business, all of those things that they have are not so familiar with this. So why don't you give us a couple tips about how the average person in sales or business can leverage that?
Oh, so
I know,
amazing.
big question.
I know. That's like, okay, give me directions for the earth.
I know. I'm sorry. Okay.
So let's just start with ChatGPT, the large language technology that literally you can ask it questions and it will give you answers, but it is as fallible as the information that's been given. So as we give it information, it is learning from everyone globally using it, which means a lot of what it's learning is wrong. So just take that into consideration as we're using ChatGPT. So the number one tip that I am giving right now, and it may change in a year, is do not use it to research anything. use it based on your own voice, your own words. So we're in sales, we're talkers. Jump up on Zoom, record yourself. You could go, on my phone, if I'm walking, I do talk to text. You could do what, right? Get your voice in text. So take the transcript. Now go into ChatGPT, and everything you do in a chat is based on my transcript. So use this transcript only. Do not research is almost in every single thing that I do. Do not research. Okay. So now we've taught it. These are the only words or the only concepts to use, and it will learn over and over time that this is your voice. Now, what do? We can ask it to write an email campaign. So you can say to it, I am a salesperson. I sell to this kind of moose in this kind of market. I want a 3-drip email campaign. The first one, I want to bring extreme value. The second one, I want their opinion. And the third one is an offer. Here's the transcript. Go. And now you'll get it. That's one thing. Now I could say, here's the transcript. Write me a 200-word post for LinkedIn. Here's the transcript. Pull out 5 quotes that I can use on LinkedIn. Right? So I can now, here's the transcript. Give me a LinkedIn poll. I have the right prompt for that. So from that 3-minute text to talk to text, or transcript from your Zoom, you can have all the content in your voice. So that's my main tip.
Well, those are very, very powerful. And yes, and you can also, if you write, you might want to speak it and have it transcribed, which there's so many options now. I use Descript. You mentioned Otter.ai. There's so many different ways to get things transcribed. But you can also write something and then say, okay, summarize this, make it into bullet points. You pull out quotes, all of these different things. It's just a brave new world. And yes, in some ways it's scary, but if you're not using AI, you are falling behind because your competitor is, right?
100%.
Yep.
And for the people that are afraid that AI is going to take over their role, it won't if you take over AI.
I love that. You've got a lot of good Brynnisms. So that's a great place to end. This has been an action-packed half hour. Brynn Tillman, thank you so much for being on the podcast.
Thank you for having me, Kay. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Uncopyable Women in Sales, your source for secrets you can use to make more sales. Check the show notes for links and contact information. And if you enjoyed the podcast, please spread the word by subscribing, sharing, and leaving a 5-star review. You can always learn more by going to uncopyablesales.com/podcast. Until next time, go out and supercharge your sales like a true uncopyable rock star.